The housewarming party was Sarah's idea, a gathering of 30 friends to celebrate their new apartment. She'd spent the morning arranging cheese plates and wine bottles, her movements mechanical as her mind raced with suspicions. She'd chosen a fitted black dress, feeling oddly self-conscious in her own home for the first time in months. Marcus moved through the party like a social butterfly, navigating the crowded space with his white cane that seemed more prop than tool with each passing minute. Sarah watched him through the rim of her wine glass, counting the tells she'd grown to recognize. The way he slightly tilted his head to listen when someone approached, but his eyes behind the dark glasses tracked their movement a split second before. "Marcus, you're looking well," her best friend Jessica exclaimed, arriving fashionably late. "Love what you've done with your hair. Those emerald green highlights are stunning." Sarah's hand tightened around her glass. She hadn't told Marcus about Jessica's new hair color. In fact, Jessica had just gotten it done yesterday, specifically choosing a salon across town to avoid walking under their apartment windows, a detail she'd shared in their private text chat. "Ah, yes." Marcus smiled broadly. "The emerald really suits you. Bold choice, but it works perfectly with your complexion." The room seemed to tilt on its axis. Jessica's confused expression said it all. How could a blind man know not only the color, but how it complemented her skin tone? "How did you know about my hair?" Jessica asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Sarah watched Marcus's confident smile falter for a microsecond. "Oh, I heard about it. Sarah mentioned it earlier." The wine glass slipped from Sarah's trembling fingers. As it fell, she saw it. The moment that would forever divide her life into before and after. Marcus's head snapped toward the falling glass, his hand reaching out with perfect precision to catch it before it could shatter against the hardwood floor. Not by sound, not by air movement, by sight. The room had gone quiet. Sarah stood frozen, memories flooding her mind. Every shower with the door open, every intimate moment she'd felt free to be uninhibited, every time she'd walked naked from the bathroom believing she was invisible to him. The weight of his gaze, which she'd never actually been free from, pressed against her skin like a physical touch. "Sarah," Marcus called out, concern in his voice. He took a step toward her, the white cane forgotten against the wall. "Are you all right?" "Don't," she whispered, then louder, "don't you dare take another step." The party guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension but not understanding its source. Sarah felt the room spinning, the faces of their friends blurring as tears filled her eyes. Every instance of vulnerability, every moment she thought was private, had been witnessed. She hadn't been living freely. She'd been performing unknowingly for an audience of one. Sarah sat in her therapist's office, staring at the potted fern in the corner, wondering if someone was watching her through its leaves. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation, but every shadow now held potential eyes, every closed door a possible observer. "I keep finding photos," she said, her voice hollow. "Every time I think I've discovered them all, another one appears. In our shared cloud storage, in old emails, in folders labeled tax documents." She wrapped her arms around herself, a protective gesture that had become habitual. "Yesterday, I found an entire album labeled Sleep Studies. Pictures of me sleeping. For 2 years, he photographed me sleeping." The insurance investigation had revealed the full scope of Marcus's deception. He wasn't just maintaining his own fraud. He was part of a larger network of people faking disabilities for insurance payouts. Their whirlwind romance had been carefully orchestrated. Sarah's profession as a work-from-home graphic designer made her the perfect target for their scheme. "I can't sleep with the lights off anymore," Sarah continued, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I keep thinking about how I used to dance around the house, how I'd do yoga in the morning sun, how her voice broke. "I'd walk around naked after showers, feeling so free, so accepted." He saw everything. They all saw everything. Her sister Rachel had helped her move into a new apartment, sweeping it for hidden cameras before Sarah would even step inside. The paranoia wasn't unfounded. They'd found 2 devices in her old bedroom, disguised as smoke detectors. The support group for victims of internet deception had become her lifeline. There, she learned she wasn't alone. Other partners of Marcus's blind friends were coming forward, each story a variation of her own nightmare. Some had children with these men, their entire families built on elaborate lies. What hurts the most, Sarah told her therapist, isn't just the violation of privacy. It's that I felt truly seen for the first time in my life with him. I thought he loved me for who I was, not how I looked. But he was watching me more intensely than anyone ever had, cataloging every flaw, every intimate moment, turning my vulnerability into evidence for his fraud. The police investigation had uncovered years of documented surveillance. Marcus and his associates had been meticulous, building cases to protect their disability claims. Sarah's uninhibited behavior had made her an unknowing star in their scheme, her trust weaponized against her. That evening, alone in her new apartment, Sarah stood before the bathroom mirror. She'd covered all the reflective surfaces in her home after moving in, unable to look at herself. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she peeled back the paper covering the mirror. For the first time in weeks, she forced herself to meet her own gaze, to really look at herself. They didn't just steal my privacy, she whispered to her reflection. They stole my ability to feel safe in my own skin. Sarah started keeping a leather-bound journal hidden in her gym bag, documenting every inconsistency with trembling hands. Each entry began with a date and time, building a case she hoped she was wrong about. The first page read, "Testing my sanity or my marriage? Maybe both." Her first deliberate test came on a Tuesday night. After Marcus fell asleep, she rearranged their living room, switching the positions of the armchair and the coffee table. She told him the next morning that the movers had finally arrived to correct their mistake from move-in day. "Oh," Marcus said, his voice carefully neutral. He walked into the living room, his white cane tapping perfunctorily against the floor. Without hesitation, he settled into the relocated armchair. After the party dissolved into awkward murmurs and hasty departures, Sarah spent the night in a hotel. She returned home the next morning with a cardboard box and a plan, her hands steady despite her racing heart. She placed handwritten notes throughout their apartment, numbers, colors, words, some in plain sight, others partially hidden, on the kitchen counter, 7439. Behind a vase, blue, under his coffee mug, liar, on the bathroom mirror, I know. Then she sat in the living room waiting. When Marcus came home from his morning support group meeting, she watched him freeze in the doorway, his eyes darting involuntarily to the first note before he remembered to act blind. "Sarah?" he called out, voice carefully neutral. "Are you home?" "Read it," she said quietly, pointing to the note on the counter. "Read the number, Marcus. Or shall I call you by your real name? Is Marcus even your name?" He stood still, shoulders tense. "Sarah, I can explain." "Read it." Her voice cracked like a whip. His shoulders slumped. Slowly, he removed his dark glasses, revealing sharp, focused eyes. 7439, he read, then continued around the room, his voice growing quieter with each revelation. "Blue lawyer, I know. How long?" Sarah's voice trembled. "How long have you been able to see?" "I had corrective surgery when I was 17, he admitted, sinking into a chair. "The disability benefits helped my family survive. After a while, it became easier to maintain the lie than explain the miracle recovery. Then I met you. And what?" Sarah stood, fury radiating from her every movement. "You thought it would be fun to watch me, to violate my privacy every single day." "It wasn't like that," he protested. "I fell in love with you. Really in love. I just couldn't figure out how to tell you without losing everything, you, the benefits, my whole life." Sarah laughed, a hollow sound. "Everything in our marriage is a lie. Every moment I thought was private, every vulnerable second." She stopped, a terrible thought striking her. "The photos on your phone. The ones you said you kept to remember the sound of moments. You could see those too, couldn't you?" His silence was answer enough. "Get out," she whispered, then louder. "Get out." "Sarah, please." He reached for her, but she recoiled. "There's more you need to know. The insurance company. They've been watching us. They needed proof of my disability, and I had to provide evidence of my everyday life. The photos, they weren't just for me." The room spun. Sarah grabbed the wall for support, bile rising in her throat. Not only had he violated her privacy, but he'd shared that violation with others. Every intimate moment, every private second, had been documented and scrutinized by strangers. "I'm calling the police," she said, her voice deadly calm. "You have 5 minutes to leave before I report you for fraud and privacy violation. And Marcus, I hope it was worth it." 3 months into their marriage, Sarah caught herself doing something she'd never done before, dancing naked through their apartment to Sweet Home Alabama while sorting laundry. She froze mid-hip shake, then burst out laughing. Marcus, working on his laptop at the kitchen table, tilted his head at the sound. "Don't stop on my account," he said, grinning. "The acoustics of your movements suggest you're really feeling the rhythm." That moment marked the beginning of Sarah's transformation. Years of scrutinizing herself in mirrors, sucking in her stomach around others, and carefully applying makeup before anyone could see her began to melt away. Marcus's blindness became her liberation. During video calls with clients, she'd sit cross-legged in just an oversized t-shirt and underwear. Her professional blouse hung strategically behind her for the camera. Marcus would work quietly in the same room, seemingly absorbed in his own tasks, occasionally asking her to describe what she was working on. One evening, while rushing to prepare for dinner guests, Sarah knocked over a glass of red wine. The crimson liquid spread across their pristine white carpet like a blooming rose. She burst into tears, remembering how her ex-husband would have berated her for such clumsiness. "Hey," Marcus said, finding her with uncanny precision and wrapping his arms around her shoulders. "It's just a carpet. Colors don't matter to me, remember? You could paint the whole place neon green, and I'd be none the wiser." His words made her cry harder, but this time from gratitude. Sarah began leaving the bathroom door open while showering, carrying on conversations with Marcus as steam billowed around her. She stopped bothering with robes after swimming in their apartment complex's pool, air-drying while watching TV. When she gained 5 pounds over the holidays, she didn't frantically diet to lose them. What did it matter? Her husband couldn't see her body changing. During their Sunday brunches, she'd watch him navigate their kitchen with his cane, marveling at how he never bumped into the island she sometimes walked into herself. "My other senses paint a picture," he'll explain when she commented on his grace. "Like right now, I can tell you're not wearing lipstick because I don't hear that slight stickiness when you speak." She accepted these explanations, too in love to question their logic. One morning, as sunlight streamed through their bedroom windows, Sarah studied Marcus's sleeping face. His dark glasses rested on the nightstand, and his unseeing eyes moved rapidly behind closed lids. She wondered what he dreamed about, what colors filled his mind's eye. Later, she would remember this peaceful moment with a very different understanding, realizing he might have been watching her all along through barely opened eyes, memorizing every curve and movement of her unguarded body.